lot of clinics will get kids when they're 3, 4, 5, and their goal is for them to be able to go into a kindergarten or first grade school. And so they're considered prep courses. How do we prepare this kid to go there? Well, the logic of what Jaelyn's proposing is that the RBT or the supervisor needs to go to the classroom where the kid's going to be placed and find out how that's run. What kind of reinforcers does that teacher use?
All right, guys, welcome back to Beyond the Science. I'm your host, Jeron, and we're live here at the 45th anniversary of FABA. 45 years. Isn't that crazy, Wes?
That's a lot.
That's crazy to say out loud. We've been enjoying our time here at FABA. I have to say, it's been amazing. I think one of the best conferences I've been to lately. How you feeling about it, Wes?
It's been fun. It's one of the larger ones, so it's good to be around a lot of people, see a lot of folks. Walking in the hallways is not the funnest before and after talks, but just overall, just being around so many great minds, so many great people who share the same passion and same interest that we have. It is like I wouldn't want to be anywhere else this weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. And this one's a special one. We have Jaelyn Windham here with us. We have the one and only Dr. Jon Bailey and Chinara. Am I saying that right?
Yes.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys for joining us. I know you're going to be doing a presentation on culture humility, so we're going to be getting that today. But I just want to kind of talk about how you guys experience. I guess I'll start with you. I'll go to Dr. Bailey. How you guys experience being at FABA so far?
Well, I'll speak my part and you can go. I go to the national conferences as well as this, and FABA's better. I had more fun and learned more yesterday than I had at 4 days at a national conference that I was at a few months ago. And talk about walking. This building, the hotel, and the meeting rooms were separated by 300 or 400 yards back and forth and back. I walked 5 miles in one day, just going back and forth from one place to another. And I didn't get as much out of it as I have right here. The original intent of FABA, because I was going to ABAI, and it's a big conference, a couple thousand people, and I was flying back, and I was thinking, gosh, there's so many people in Florida that can't go to the National Association. Yeah. What if we brought it to Florida? So that was the original concept, is bring the feel of a national conference to a state. And so, well, we did. And a lot of people say they enjoy a state conference. And after that, we were the first state conference. Then they started happening all over the country. A lot of people discovered that a state conference was a good idea because you're networking with the people or your colleagues, really.
So you're a trendsetter.
Yeah. Well, so this was back in 1980, right? 1980. So I want to stay on that point for a minute, Dr. Bailey, because you're right. You have that feel, but there's a community feel to FABA. It's like people know each other. You see people conversating. So you said that was your main motivation. What has it been like for you now to be here many years later to kind of see what it's evolved to?
Well, I was on a deprivation schedule because for 20 years, I just helped run the conference. And I kept thinking, God, I would love to go to a session, but I got to go deal with the general manager or somebody's toilet overflowed. I got to talk to the plumbers about that or whatever. And the whole conference would go by and I never got to go to one session. And so that was my dream, is someday I want to be able to go to FABA and actually enjoy it. And I have the last 2-3 years where I've been able to, because I've phased out after the 40th. And so I've actually been able to go, and we've got some great presenters. Yes. National people come here. They say that they like it better than the national conferences because people come up to them and talk to them, and they want to network with them and so on.
Yeah, I guess you could say it had a little more intimate feel than the national conference.
And that's kind of the same thing I was getting ready to piggyback off of. I think in these more smaller state conferences, you have the opportunity to meet the speakers, get to know them, and then right after the end of all the talks for the day, we all kind of meet downstairs, and then for me, like that's where all the real learning happens. Yes. You get a chance to talk, you get a chance to discuss some of your ideas. You get to pull from, because you have their presentation that you can kind of reference. That was maybe 2 or 3 hours ago. But then some ideas or questions you've been juggling maybe all semester, or if you're working at a certain site, you can kind of have that sit down powwow. And for me, like that was where not all of them, but the majority of my learning came from is just being able to explore different topics that you would normally do in the clinic side or from a presentation.
Yeah, and speaking of topics, I have to go to your presentation that we have coming. You're going to be presenting on cultural responsiveness, which is a really important topic, especially right now. What does it mean to you to be able to share that here at FABA?
Okay. I think it means a lot to share it here at FABA. I think that right now it is kind of on a smaller scale because you do have to start with the small end with things like this. Like this is a broad, wide topic that can be applied to many things. Mm-hmm. But right now I'm focusing on how we can apply that in the session as RBTs and how the BCBAs can do that, because we have a lot of good ideas. And I think that it's easier to understand as somebody who is a minority or might be in a marginalized group, but it's harder to explain to people that are not. And we have to realize that we are explaining this to a lot of people who are not. So just to really boil it down to the simple, what can we actually do, instead of talking about these like big concepts and just things that other people might not understand, not being part of a marginalized group. So I'm excited to do my best to attempt to translate that to other people.
One of the things that which you just kind of touched on, I've never thought about it from this perspective before, but it was really unique. You talk about from the minority to the larger group, but from the perspective of just, let's just say the practice, what would you suggest if maybe a 2-week, 3-week, new starting BT be able to communicate that with their supervisor
about how to be culturally responsive?
Well, not necessarily how to be it, but like be able to address some of their maybe concerns or something that may have happened. Like what would you suggest in some of those situations?
Yeah, I think that's interesting. I think that we could first off try to do mostly I statements, because a lot of people shut their ears off when it starts to sound like blame. Mm-hmm. So to just get that open discourse started, just be sure that you're being transparent and talking about your experience and how that affects you. And as long as you have a passion for these things and you actually want to, make the world a better place, I think that most people will tune into what you have to say. And you just have to also be okay with understanding that this is not the place for me. If I can't feel comfortable to come to you to talk about what I need, and because this relationship goes both ways. I'm working for you, but you're also supposed to be growing me as a professional. Yes. So you have to be realistic with, is this going to work for me or not? Because if not, I can go find another place. I'm also in demand. It's not just about me working for you, if that makes sense.
I love it. It's getting spicy here already, guys. You're listening to Beyond the Science. We're live here at the FABA Conference. Now, Dr. Bailey, this one is for you. How does cultural humility fit into an ethical ABA practice?
Well, the way it fits is the traditional approach is, I'm the behavior analyst, I'll train you to do something. Mm-hmm. And in this particular model, it's like, I'm the behavior analyst, I want to learn from you how I can be a more effective behavior analyst. And this is where the cultural responsiveness comes in, because under normal circumstances, the RBT might not know how to do that. Jaelyn alluded to this. There's lots of theories out there, and they get a lot of action. They're quoted a lot and so on. But nobody's actually said, what do I do? I mean, the implication is we need to read books about culture.
Yeah.
But what we've discussed and what she's helped me understand is you have to know the family that you're working with, because that's the real culture, is how that family operates. And the next family, they may be the same skin color, but they operate differently. And you have to, as the therapist, adjust yourself to this family. Like, they may be a touchy-feely family, and when they give reinforcers, they hug kids and tickle them and do stuff. And this may be an auditory family where they just say, good job, I like the way you did that. And you have to adapt. Well, we don't train RBTs to do that. And I'm hoping that Jaelyn's work will kind of open that door to discovering what are the keys to being an effective behavior therapist, behavior technician, on an individual basis with an individual kid and an individual family. I'm hoping that that's where we can go with this.
Wow. And I also want to say that That's not to say that there aren't shared commonalities across culture, but there's always going to be the argument of what about the outliers, which is why I'm focusing on the home life. And then hopefully from there, we can build up to say, okay, this home life has these commonalities with this home life. They match this demographic, and not to have a one size fits all. When this person looks like this, you need to do this, but more of a blueprint of, okay, well, what can we try? Because, for example, things like not every behavior reduction plan works for the same behavior. Like if you're doing redirection for mouthing, it doesn't work for everybody, but you know that this usually works for this. So let me try this first, and then we can get a quicker result of like what actually works for this client.
I love that. And I don't want you to have to give too many spoiler alerts, but what surprised you the most in your research findings from what you can share with us before your presentation?
That's a good question. Honestly, how good the RBT did at being culturally responsive without the information. Because just to give like a little bit about it, they were supposed to be implementing certain like aspects of culturally responsive behavior without knowledge of the survey that the family filled out. And they actually did pretty good with the like the reinforcement and presenting the directives. I think it looked like the deficit of opportunities and just like accuracy was the presentation of visual materials, because I don't think that those often resemble what they're coming into contact with, which I was just speaking about. I got inspired to do that from the IQ test. How back in the day, I learned this on Good Times, by the way, how the IQ test was not meant for Black people to pass. And they were throwing in objects on there that they didn't have any experience with, like a saucer, which they didn't really have in their house. So it's just like, why are we teaching things to them that they'll never see in common items just because it's the next thing on the ables? Like we need to be doing things that they're interacting with, because the goal is for this to be socially valid and for it to generalize across their environments. So.
You know, you a second ago, you brought up the idea of like outlier situations or concepts, right? Which kind of led me to think about the term of, well, there's just a few rotten apples in whatever group or organization that, you know, we can fill in there. From the research that you completed, how do you feel your findings can generalize or disseminate across into other kind of aspects outside of the clinic, maybe some current events or anything like that, just in general?
Oh, that's a good question. I think that this is something that can be applied in sessions that are in the home, in the clinic, in the school. I think that it applies to those different aspects, but I think that this is just the foundation to get there eventually of being able to solve those bigger issues, because we had to start so small. So I think that those are next steps. Like eventually, this was just some pilot data that I compiled on what RBT's behavior looks like while they're in the session with their kids. But the next step I would hope is to have an intervention and see if this actually helps the client, because that's obviously the number one goal, is if this is socially valid, if this helps them. So yeah, eventually to get to that place of we can apply this other places, I first have to prove that we can apply it here. Because I feel like it's not taken seriously, I think, by some people, but I don't think it's out of a place of spite or like a hateful place. I think that it's more out of a place of just ignorance. Like I am not aware that this is truly an issue, because it does sound so theoretical. Like every time it's talked about, it's ideas, this is good, we need to be like this, but like not really necessarily a how. And I don't think that we should be offended by that. I think that we should just teach that, like how, because some people actually just don't know because it doesn't apply to them.
Yeah.
So.
There's a related example to your particular question about, well, you know, where does this go? A lot of clinics will get kids when they're 3, 4, 5, and their goal is for them to be able to go into a kindergarten or first grade school. And so if they're considered prep courses, how do we prepare this kid to go there? Well, the logic of what Jaelyn's proposing is that either the RBT or the supervisor needs to go to the classroom where the kid's going to be placed and find out how that's run. What kind of reinforcers does that teacher use? How often do they change activities? All this kind of stuff. Because the only way you can prepare that is to know what environment you're going to go into and then set this one up so that there's a good match. So we don't want the kid to fail and get kicked out of kindergarten or first grade.
That's a good point.
Yeah, I hope everybody in the audience is enjoying this. I'm enjoying this one. I think this is going to be a really great presentation tomorrow. I want to bring it back to FABA for you, Dr. Bailey. You've mentored 60 plus PhDs. What advice would you give to some early career BCBAs that are joining us at FABA for this conference?
Well, you need to find your niche, is what people say. And you need to find that thing that speaks to you. So it's not, I hate to see people just take a job because it needs to be something that really strikes you as, oh, I love this. This is important. I'm going to devote my life to this. Yeah. And you know what? I got some advice when I was finishing my PhD. I was at Kansas, and Don Baer was one of my professors, and I stopped in. Actually, I had my VW bus loaded and ready to move, and I stopped by his office. He was in the office the day I stopped by. The door was partly open. I tapped on the door. Come in. And he was sitting at his desk, and I said, "How can I help you?" It was very official. And I said, "Well, do you have any advice for me?" And he said, "Press every lever." And that was it. And then I was supposed to leave. You know, he told me what it was. So I'm walking out. I'm going, "What is he talking about? What does he mean?" Well, it's a metaphor from animal research. And the idea is you're trying to find out all these levers that you're going to go into. You're going to a new community. Which ones deliver reinforcers? Yeah. So you go to this meeting. That didn't work. Go to meet this person. No, they're not very nice. Go to this setting. Oh, man, this looks like good. I'm going to try this. Well, I would say advice to a new BCBA. In fact, I gave this to a colleague who took a new job recently, and he asked the same question. Well, what do I do? I said, press every lever. You want to find out which of those environments you could work. Is it going to be in the school? Is it going to be in the community? Is it going to be working with families? Which one of those is the most reinforcing to you, that speaks to you, that says, yeah, I really want to do that?
Yeah.
Wow, sorry. When you said that, that took me back to my grad school days because I worked very, very closely with Dr. Jesus Rosales, and I believe he did a lot of work with Don Baer as well. And so I remember him saying something similar. Not exactly like that, but as soon as you said that, I was like, oh, yeah, that's exactly what he would say. Sure. So super good advice.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember, God, you put out so much research and books out the bill. I don't know which one it is, but I want to say it was the 25 Essential Professional Skills. I remember you spoke about that. And I was actually looking for a job at that point. And that was one of the things that you put in that book. You were like making sure when you're looking for that job, asking those questions and making sure you're not just choosing any damn job. And so when I was going out looking for my job, that's what I did. So I commend you for all the work that you've done in our field and the legacy that you leave. So thank you for all that you've done. I want to quickly move back here too, because I got to dive a little bit deeper into this. I'm trying not to give any spoilers for your presentation, but I also want you to be able to give some advice. So for students that are wanting to research cultural responsiveness, what would be your advice to them?
I think my advice to them is find somebody that listens to you, but doesn't take everything that you say. Because that is Dr. Bailey for me. He listened to my ideas. He always welcomed them, but he has such a scientific lens that I want to save the world. I'm like, okay, and we can help this group and we can do this and we're just going to save the world. And he's like, all right, bring it down. Bring it down. Which at first, when we first started, I was a little offended. I'm like, he doesn't want to save the world? Like, come on. But I think the biggest problem is having to translate this to other people and having somebody that's going to fine tune your research because theories are great, theories are good, but people are looking for data. And he has that mind of like, it's not coming from a place of, I don't believe in you or I don't think your idea is good, but I want to help you to make it to where other people that can understand. So just find someone that you're comfortable enough to share your niche with or talk about your passions that can also help you fine tune that.
Yeah. I love that. Wes?
No, I mean, you kind of answered my question. I was getting ready to ask. It was going to be more of like, just as a as a group? Like what was your experience kind of working with each other, working with Bailey and kind of back and forth? Like, how has that been for you guys?
Okay.
Well, for me, it was just a supportive role. I've been listening to Jaelyn's presentation for the past 2 nights.
Support system right there.
And it's really good. I'm excited to watch it again tonight for her to practice.
Awesome.
But we initially bonded over the fact that Black people don't get the right services in ABA. So yeah.
Because their home life is so different from what ABA teaches. And I think there's like it's partially a parent training thing, but even the word parent training in itself is kind of, I feel like to a Black family would be like,
Yeah.
I don't need you to tell me how to
Do you
parent.
mind giving a second to kind of unpack that for our listeners? Because, they may not understand what you mean by within the Black home. Like how is that different than what you would typically see for, another client that comes in? Like what are some of those gaps that you may have came across or recognized?
Yeah, I'll say something simple in the clinic. Initially I would see how you do DTT and you see white kids, and they would just give it to the Black kid. And I was like, wait, this isn't fair. So back then I asked my supervisor if she could change the color of his skin. And I think that's just simple because I remember when I was little, I wanted Black Barbie dolls and there was none. And I was like, they should match this because we already have the resources to anyways. So.
That's super important. Representation is super important.
Yeah, representation is important. Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, guys, as we wind down this, and thank you guys for just spending some time with us here, let's have a little bit of fun. Starting with you, Dr. Bailey. I want you to describe FABA's vibe with 3 words.
Great, personal, eye-opening.
Ooh,
That's good.
I love that. What about for you, Jaelyn? How would you describe FABA so far?
I'm going to go with learning experience, even though that's
We'll hyphenate it.
We'll make that a last name.
Fun. And I'm going to say fruitful.
Okay.
A lot of free stuff.
Sir, what you got?
Inspired, thought-provoking, and fun.
Yeah. Okay, so fun has been a reoccurring thing. Let me say this. Everybody's been talking about these social event that's going to happen tonight. The Ignite tonight and the socials. I hear people got to get in there. We're going to experience some good culture. I'm excited about that. Wes even may do some salsa tonight. He's been telling me.
I've been salsa for all of 15 minutes. So,
But I'm curious, because FABA, I guess, has been known. This conference, people kind of get down and have some fun. So, what is the scoop on all this social events that FABA's having going on? Why is it the best conference that people are saying that everybody should come down and go to with the social events?
Dr. Brigham?
Well, I'm not a very social person. I'm usually in bed before they start. So but I am interested in the Ignite.
Yes.
That was actually something that I brought to FABA from some other experience that I had at another conference. And I saw that and I said, we need to bring this to FABA because we've got some people who could really tell some stories in this format that would make it fun. Because a lot of what we do is deadly serious.
Yes.
I mean, we are trying to save lives. We may not be saving the world, but we're saving lives.
Yes, we are.
We're changing families. We're saying that this child can be saved, this child can be normal, and you got to work hard to do that. I mean, that's deadly serious. But inside of that, there's a lot of fun stories to be told. And this format, this Ignite format, where it's rapid, blah, 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 you got 5 minutes to do this thing, the slides are changing. That makes it fun.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm excited.
I'm excited to see it too.
Yes. Thank you guys for joining us here as we wrap up here. I'm excited about your presentation tomorrow.
Thank you. I look forward to seeing
Dr.
you
Bailey, thank you again for all your contributions. I mean, we can't say it enough to the field and just this collaboration. I love seeing this. And guys, we have some more interviews coming up here. Thank you guys for joining us.
Well, how can we find you? If we need
yes.
to,
How do we find you on the
people
socials?
get in contact with you if they have questions or learn more about your research? Like what's the best way to reach out?
The best way to reach me is through the hotline. If you go to Google and type in ABA Ethics Hotline. It comes right to my house.
There we go.
So that's the easiest way to reach me.
I guess the easiest way to reach me would be via Instagram, and that's Jaelyn, Jaelyn, Alyssa, Alyssa.
Put it in. Awesome. Thank you guys so much. We appreciate it.